All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final session of the day. Our final speaker of the day is somebody actually I don't want to introduce because, as I call him, he's annoyingly talented Alan. Alan Shaw will be joining us from Germany. He's a Berlin based Indian artist, illustrator, storyteller. He spent a couple of years at St. Stephen's in Delhi before quitting and joining NID Ahmedabad, where he graduated in communication design, specialized in animation filmmaking, and beard growing. Alan joins us from Berlin. Alan, over to you.
Thank you, Suresh, so much. I'm really happy. I've always looked up to you, and it's nice to be interviewed or talked to by you. So I will just start the presentation. What I've done is I've looked at the theme that culturally connected, and I think sketchbook is a thing that connects me to many cultures. But at the same time, I was looking at why am I speaking in a design week? And so this presentation also takes back how the sketchbooks helped me in my life as a designer. So I will just begin with the presentation. Uh, just one second. I have to sort of go there. Yeah. So I call this presentation "Sketchbooks: My Passport to the World," and it's how I look at my sketchbooks, because that's what they do to me. They give me almost a license to go anywhere and be with any culture, be with people, and in a way that I never imagined it would be. So incidentally, it's been 2020, 21 has I complete 25 years of keeping sketchbooks, and so I decided to illustrate my shelf of sketchbooks. This is to make you jealous, Venkat. And on the right hand side, this is just a picture of some of the pages of the sketchbooks, and I really think if somebody wants to ask, I mean, somebody asks me, what have you earned, and how do you measure what have you earned? This is my wealth. This is my life recorded in the last 25 years, and there are some. I don't know how many sketchbooks, but they exceed 300 for sure, and. And I also wanted to talk about the medium, which is watercolors. I fell in love with the medium in 1994 when I was introduced to it properly, and I just love the pace of it. It is fast. It is something which is easy to carry, and it just fits the thing that I do. I travel and I sketch, and so yeah, this is a sketch I had made 7 8 years back. Where I was looking at my laptop, my technology, and this is the technology that I use. And these are all my boxes. I keep buying watercolors, so I just one day arranged them into a sort of a building. And yeah, this is something I wrote in my sketchbook once, that watercolors keep me afloat. And I love the fluidity of the medium. I love the way it interacts with paper, and I also feel that watercolor is like a naughty child. It doesn't listen to you. It keeps misbehaving, and it's also nice that you cannot control it, because it's like naughty, and when children they misbehave, you kind of like it. So that's how it goes for me. Yeah. And so when I uh, talk about sketching, it is something. It's a very lonely activity, but it happens in many places and spaces. So I will start with the studio. Suresh, I am you are able to see the slides, right? Hello.
Yes, Alan, we can see the slides. Confirmed.
Okay, cool. No, I just was a little lost. So there, yeah. So I think it is very important where you work from, how do you work. So there's you need one place which is like an anchor, and to for me it's the studio. But it keeps changing also because I travel and I paint. But you come back to the comfort of your own space. So this used to my previous studio. So I kind of sketched it. I did selfies. Where I am there, but it's the studio, so that's me again, and different point of views. I will come down to perspectives, but I think it's a very important thing about putting on your own perspective on paper, and that's what I do. I sketch because I want to show the world my perspective towards something, and I don't want people to subscribe to that kind of perspective, but it's just my way of looking at things. So these are various sketches of the studio, and yeah. Then I also look at other artists who have their own spaces. So this is a friend of mine called Tonia. She has this wonderful studio where she paints in her lonely space. Sometimes people like me are allowed to observe them, and I like that. There's another friend called Ulrike. She has her own studio where when she paints, and it's her space. And I like the loneliness. I I don't know how to put it. It's a space where you are yourself and it's your world. Even how it doesn't matter how tiny or big it is. So then you zoom out, and I was looking at the building I used to have my studio in. So I did this one uh, illustration of the and then I moved to another building, which where I am currently, where I have my studio, and it's a building which was a film studio. Actually, the UFA film studio, a part of Metropolis, was made here, and it was shut down in the 30s. And then the building was like that, and in the 70s, the hippies kind of spotted this building, and they started performing circuses and street performances, and eventually they went to the government and said that we want to start a cultural center here, international cultural center. And so now it's called the UFA Fabric, which is the factory, UFA factory, and it's a cultural center, and I am very lucky to have my studio here. So this illustration I did, in a way, it was my bait to get into the space. It's a very closed group of people who are from the 70s, and they kind of want to keep the space to themselves. But I am very lucky to have a space here. So that's the new space. That's my daughter jumping around on the table, and that's where I'm talking from. Talking about spaces, that's the NID studio, and again, sketchbook. This is if one reads the date, it's 1998 animation studio. It's people make their spaces comfortable, and they this Sukanya, classmate of mine, and her set of posters, and then I also often question what is the concept of home. Is it a place where you feel comfortable? So this is actually my house in India, in Rajkot, and that's my sister who actually keeps it very very well and does it very well. But I often question this because I'm all over the place, and it's very important for me to understand this idea of home. Now, where did this whole thing of sketching started? Like, I was in an ID, and we had this course called environmental perception, where we were taken to a village and we had to perceive the environment through sketching and observation. And I really thought it was a wonderful course, and I just took a permanent repeat in it. And I think that's what I've been doing all these years. I'm doing environmental perception, and in 2019 I was called to be a part of this course and be on the other side as one of the faculty members. And so yeah, this was my impression. I like summing up my trips or my courses, or my experiences in a sketchbook. So that's a double spread in a sketchbook, where I just try to sum up the whole experience. Then I was also trying to, a sketchbook is a space where you record things, but you also, I feel it's a lot of performing art, because you are traveling with the sketchbook, you're outside and you're with people. And so when I was doing this, or conducting this course, or was a part of this course as in the capacity of a faculty, then I just thought that I should just explain to the kids that, it might look very complex, but it's actually very easy if you just break down information. If you understand perspective, just from the perspective of a cube, then you can just I was actually sitting here and drawing this with my students, but it was just that I look at everything around me as information. And if you can take down the data in terms of like a list of things, like, okay, there's a flour mill at the back which has got a slanted roof. There is a parwadi, which is a kabutar ka feeding bird feeding thing, and there's a gate to the entrance of the village. Then, and there's a school here, so then you can just plot it. And I was just explaining this to the students, and I think it's an important sketch, because I wish when I was studying, somebody was explaining how to do something like this. And I was very happy to see that students were getting the hang of it. And so I just next few slides are just of me sketching in different places. It's also to show off that I go here and there and whatever. But it's a lot to do with how you make yourself comfortable. So that's from my home in Erlangen, the first city I was living in Germany. And so that's at the window. That's somewhere in a forest in Japan. That's Tokyo. And that's on a ship. That's in Ahmedabad, early morning, where a band was just taking a break before they had to go somewhere to perform. And that's what on one of my camping holidays. And that's another holiday where some kid kind of joined in. And this is a holiday in France. And when I say holiday, it's all sketching trips. So I actually am working all the time, even if I'm on a holiday. And I think the trick is to to do something, work, make your work interesting enough that it feels like a holiday. But actually, each trip I come back with a sketchbook or two, full of stories and memories. And that's in Ahmedabad, in one of the stepwells. This is a very interesting stepwell, which is it's a part of a house. That's another one. That's me in Kutch, in the salt desert. That's in Bosnia. So yeah, what I wanted to talk about was that you make yourself comfortable, and you have to find your studio everywhere, wherever you go. Then I also think sketchbooks are a place where you actually visit your past. So you can actually walk back in time and start looking at things. So this is an illustration I did for my mother, but most of it happened in the sketchbook first before it went on to become this artwork. This is a house I grew up in, and I think there's a lot of influence of this house on me as a person, because my father was a priest, and he didn't earn a lot of money. And it's a space where we just kept playing on our own. We didn't have toys. So I visited this one was done in 2008. Then in 2013 I visited the place, and it's a little broken down and all of that, but it was really nice to be there and see it, how the space is now. And these are certain close-ups. I learned how to cycle there. That's the old me, and the new me drawing myself in my sketchbook. That's me going fishing. These are the kind of games that we had, or running around with the catapult. And in my sketchbook, I also look at sketchbooks like full of stories. And so there was this character called Terence Edwin Daniel, and I have written with a name like Terence Edwin Daniel, you cannot do badly in life. So he was one of my childhood inspirations, because he was just 6 7 years elder to me, but he was fantastic. He was ahead of his time. He could build his own bicycles. He could dismantle a moped and fix it back. And so I kind of looked up to him. He could build like basic structures, like a place for hens to stay, like a cage. And he must have been 13 14, and I must have been 7 8. But I really, well, so I really think he influenced me quite a lot. So I go back in time sketching. That's one of my uncles. He used to own a flour mill, आटा का चक्की होता है. And he had this tiny desk which you could open up, and people used to pay 50 paise or 1 rupee for a गेहूं को to convert into atta or whatever. And he used to, whenever we went there, he used to just pull out some coins and put it in our hands. And we used to love this grandfather. We used to call him Toffee Wala Dada. So I really think sketchbooks are a place where I go back in time and I look at my own development, how I grew up. And in his this atta chakki, there there used to be a wall where we were measured. And so that's me. Anu, my pet name. Debu is my brother. That's Sonu, who's my one of my uncles, who was not very. And that's Monu was again another uncle. So these are just our heights. But I think sketchbook is is a place for me where I do visit my past. Now I because this whole festival is also about culturally, like, connecting. And I also want to say that it's a design festival. And the influence of design on me as an artist, because I do practice design today, but I practice it in a certain way. And I also travel and I sketch, and I do it in a certain way because I studied design. And so there was this course called design process, and we at the end of the course we had to do a poster which was part of the display. And this poster was done by hand at that point, 94 95 I'm talking about. But this course had a lot of has a lot of influence on me. And I have saved this poster, although it has gone through one flood in Ahmedabad. And still it survives. And I am very happy that I have it, because this is the man who used to conduct that course, called Mr. MP Ranjan. And he has influenced a lot of us in many ways, in when we talk about design thinking and design process. So, and I use a lot of gyan that was passed on by him in the things that I do today. So I think it's very important to talk about him. There's another guy called Errol Nelson Pius, who was a faculty in textile design. And he's a guy who teaches me how to meditate. I feel like, he's never taught me as a teacher, but he's amazing in terms of consistency. I've seen him for the last 20 25 years, just sitting and braiding. And this is a sketch of him. And this is where we meet this Jogi, another teacher who's never taught me but has been teaching me for a very long time. So, come what may, you go to NID at 7 in the morning or for sketching, and at the Chai Gate, you will find them. Errol braiding, Jogi talking about his projects, and talking about sketching and talking about design in general. Then, I also looked at the design process visually. What is it that one is doing? And so I keep I look at design as this very, very huge process where there is a big machine which is very complicated, but you need to know where your pipes are, where the outlets are, where things are coming from, how to control it, how to uh, so when I practice as a graphic designer, because I have a little firm in Rajkot, now there was a bakery which was starting, and they came to us, and they had a very funny question whether we can design a logo. So this was a part of the proposal where I looked at the whole process of design as baking, that you have to have your designs, what you're going to make, how you do the knead the dough, and then how you shape it, and then you put it in the oven. It takes time, and then you offer it to the clients. And so this is the kind of pitching in that I would do, because I think in the end nobody's asking me to draw, but drawing helps me get there. And so I think that's good enough for me. There's a sports column that is going to be we're going to start in a Hindi magazine for children, and this is my brainstorming for it. That how and so I just wanted to put up. Then we work for a university where the brand ambassador is Ravindra Jadeja. So now they came to us and they said that we've got this guy. So how do we do the campaign? So this is how everything starts. It's in the book. We can call it a sketchbook, we can call it a workbook, but it's how I work. And I was looking at. The previous presentation, and we were talking about this whole thing about technology, and I think I've embraced technology, but I am old school in terms of putting down my thoughts on paper before I hit on the computer. And so this is a good mix. For example, like when I was trying to pitch in for a film, animation film. So what we do. Then some company, they wanted their website to be redone, and so we were looking at how to go about doing it. Then Pluto magazine is one of the most popular Hindi children's magazine, and they came to us and they said that can you redesign the whole magazine. So this was the brainstorming for that. So all the thought process happens in the book, like and I really think that it's fantastic that I have studied design, and it really helps me think in a very structured way. And then finally, this magazine is an illustrated magazine, so you design almost takes a back seat, like but the structure comes from there. This is when I had to do the logo for the Indian Indo-German Film Week here. So this is my just starting page. This is a project I'm doing with Varun Grover, who's a script writer and a stand-up comic, and so he's written this beautiful story called Keel, and it is about growing up in a small town in UP. And so yeah, that's how I would like brainstorm. And this was an animated spot we had to do for the last year's India England series. It was broadcasted on the big screen. So and this is a school we work for, and they have this section called explorations, where before we start designing, there's a lot of thought process, and that thought process is a lot of visuals, and yeah, talking a lot with the sketchbook. Oops, sorry. uh, um, I just jumped. Yeah. This is how it goes. These are all workbooks or sketchbooks where everything is thought of. And finally, in the end, sometimes you get to do illustrations. Most of the time, not. But somehow the clients have a lot of reverence for me. Even in a small town like Rajkot, people, when I meet them, first thing they ask for is the sketchbook before we get on to the presentation on the computer or the laptop. And I like that whole impression, and I think it puts me in a different category. Uh, so this is when we were working for a children's hospital, or pitching in for a children's hospital. This is also where one client got very upset because he was not understanding what we do. We were trying to explain. So finally, illustration helped. I tried to explain through this illustration what do we do, what are we doing, and in the end, we're all working together as a team. So let's not make it an us and them kind of a thing. Ki, you told me this, and I am not doing this, and you're not doing this, and I really don't think it works like that. It's something that we have to do because we can do it for you, but it doesn't put us in a position of advantage, or you in a position of advantage. And this illustration really helped, because after this we've been working peacefully for 2 years. So I come to this because this is something I was doing yesterday. I had to do this talk, so I went to my sketchbook. I thought about what I have to talk about and how to talk, and all that has to be figured out. So my passport to my own history. This is when I left NID and I left for Rajkot. It was a very strange day for me, where I was not sure what am I doing, but I'm very happy that I've recorded this. I will just read the last sentence. Life on my own finally begins, and it's just your own, like, it doesn't matter whether it's a pretty page or not, it looks perfect in terms of sketching or not. No, it is a very important page in my life, and I'm glad I have it. Then, when I went to Rajkot, I have these mental maps in my head, which are not very accurate in when you put it on paper, but in your head it works perfectly. And so I tend to draw these maps which are really off, like, in reality, but that's how you have imagined the city in your head. Like Ahmedabad, I always see it in triangles, and it's just in my head. It is like that. So I think it's important to put it down, and I'm glad I put it down because this is my first year in Rajkot, and yeah, the city has changed since then, and this map is terrible in terms of accuracy, but I'm really, I can find my way in it. Then there are encounters. There's Rajan, who's from Ahmedabad, and he's a weaver and designer, and uh, it's just nice that I have him in my sketchbook because he passed away last year, and I was just thinking that it's so nice that this moment we spent together is recorded somewhere, and there were many moments, but one of these moments was recorded. That's just like 20 years ago, just a phase, and it's nice to have all these things. This is 98 again, June 98, and I was quite upset with people, like, I was just looking at the grays of the blues. So this was done last year when my friend, she was moving here in Berlin. She was moving to another house or another apartment, and she was just worried about her aquarium. And so she does research on sharks. So I just did this while I was talking to her. This cafe I visit, or I don't frequent this place, but I like it because it's called the Wohnzimmer, which is like a living room. This is PDF. Suresh would know from last time we met. I like recording because it's quite strange. We lost Vikas, our director from NID, ex-director, and after this day, at the end of this day, he gave me his number and he said, "Next time you're in Mumbai, please give me a call. We should sit together, have a whiskey." And it never happened, but a sketchbook is that it has memories, it has stories. This is last summer at a camping site, and I was very, usually camping sites are very peaceful, but this was, I don't know what, but it was like a madhouse. So I just decided to paint the madness, which was or illustrate the madness in my book. The same camping ground, there was a water body, and my wife and child, they were in the water while I was sketching, and yeah. So I love people watching. I really think it is a fantastic sport that you just. So this time I actually went to a swimming pool where I wanted to swim, but it just looked so nice, and I didn't have a sketchbook, so it is the last page of a book where you have this yellow thing, and I just took any pen and illustrated all the people there, and it was nice. This is organized crime where I actually sit and watch people, and so this is before coloring, that's after coloring, and that's another one at a park where all people are social distancing, but in my sketchbooks, not. I tend to put as many people as possible. I don't like the idea of ticking a box and saying, okay, I wanted to go to Italy, so I've gone to Italy. So if I like it, I will go there again and again. So this Cologne Cathedral, I keep sketching it over and over again because I think it's a fantastic building. And that's just another page from my sketchbook. I am a very shy writer. Sometimes I write, and I write both in English and Hindi. But this day I penned down a poem, and I thought it was important because it's important to me. This is when we travel now. I don't drive, I sketch. My wife drives, and we listen to a lot of children's music because we have a 5-year-old now. But this is when she was 3, and this is the feeling you get. So I just do it. This is an old sketchbook. This is when I was working for Kalaraksha in Kutch. It was very disheartening to see that the state government declared this place a special economic zone, and this beautiful design school and all the artisans, they just lost their interest in what they were doing, and they started lifting cement bags in these 2 power plants constructed by Tata and Adani. So I was just angry. So I was working for this organization called Kala Raksha, and I called it the Kala Rakshas because of these things. This is just a park where there are sculptures in Erlangen, which is in South Germany. This is a visit to a friend's place, and that my daughter was just born, and that's me. It's a selfie, and yeah, they have a very interesting house with a lot of chaos, a lot of colors, and I love this whole perspective. This is last 2 weeks back, I think, 28th of November. Our neighbor is called Schaefer, which is like a shepherd, and they have 2 children, and they had invited us for dinner. So I just decided to do their kitchen, and they have a very interesting kitchen and living space. So yeah, this is just a morning where you wake up, and the bed sheet, IKEA bed sheet, looks like waves. So you put it down on a sketchbook. This is just a sketching trip close by in the harbor here. Yeah, this is a barefoot park where we go quite often, and we walk bare feet here through this park. But there's this very beautiful sculpture, which is like he's this Valdemar, this guy called Verma, who's watching the guarding the forest. I love this sculpture. This is just a cycling trip. This is last year winter. My kid was very happy because it was snowing so much. We had to use the sledge to go to the kindergarten. This is my kid who's just was had recently learned how to balance on the balancing bicycle. So she was always going through the puddles because kids love that. That's a space I really like going, cafe cinema. So it's that. And then last year, Cafe Cinema was shut down because of pandemic, but also because the owners were changing and all of that. So I was very sad. So I just sat outside and did all the graffitis and the buildings outside because it was shut. Yeah. This is a very important page in my sketchbook because I had just moved to Germany, and I was very upset because I didn't know anybody, and the only person I knew was my wife, and she was working, and the whole day I used to be alone, and I didn't know people. People were very cold, and so yeah, I just thought that if the city has accepted these two. Uh, then even I guess I have a chance. And these two storks who visit Erlangen every year from Africa, and they build a nest on this chimney, and the city just loves them. So I was just thinking, ki city ne, if they have accepted these two, then I have a chance. Then Erlangen also has this Europe's biggest comic festival called the Comic Saloon, which was a discovery. So that's recorded in the. That's Suresh. He was on the other side last year when we had these MJD sessions where he was interviewed, and
Yes, yes, Alan, I can see. Very nice sketch. This, I think, is your finest work till date.
this is the one I wanted to gift to you, and I had to carry it back. Anyways, it's just recordings, and I love the fact that everything kind of gets recorded, and it's also my passport to the to different countries, regions, which is like literally. So I will just run you through a few things. This is Greece, and I like these little thoughts because Greece was completely blue and white, all the islands. So I just wrote in my last page of my sketchbook was when I was small, my mama gave me a big bucket of white paint, and I always had the blues. So just I like these things that come because of the experiences. This was in Rome, and yeah, this was this was my first time in Italy, and I when I saw the tower, no, I, I was like, "अरे ये तो काफी टेढ़ा है." फिर I just wrote it down like that. This is me sketching in France, sketching on this photo you already saw. This is Ahmedabad. Love the city. Yeah. Then this is Russia. Russia has a lot of influence on me because in our small town in Bihar, where I come from, we had nothing but Soviet literature because of the Cold War situation. India and Soviet Union were big friends, and I think a lot of people my age would remember that we got a lot of books. And so yeah, in 2014 I actually went to Russia to just because I really wanted to go and experience it. And then I realized that yeah, it is pretty much like the illustrations that I used to see in the books by me publication. And so yeah, I had a good time sketching, looking at the log houses, which I read about it in books by Maxim Gorky as a kid. And I used to imagine, and it was quite pretty close to what I had imagined when I actually visited. So this was Japan. So I tend to do things like whatever I experienced during the first week or first 2 days, I put it down in. Then this was in London. Why I put this sketch is that there was a man. He said he gave me a lot of compliments, and I felt very nice about doing what I do. This was in Istanbul. This was in Hungary. I liked the in Budapest. I liked the contrast between the old and the new, and I always liked that. I studied history, and I like that bit about the modern and the old together, existing together. This was Prague, the Charles Bridge. This was in Amsterdam, and I drew this because I love electricity cables. And in Europe, you don't see it like this, but in Amsterdam, it was near the main railway station. It was like this. So this was in Croatia. I was just sitting and staring at the ocean, and I just felt like, yeah, who made this ocean, who created it? Then हमारा God थोड़ा दिमाग में ऐसा है तो then I thought he cannot do it alone, so he has to have a champak who was helping him to create this. So this is a sad one, but I quite like that it's there in my sketchbook. I was sketching this building, and there was a rag picker, one girl who came, and she kept pestering me. And I thought she wanted money, and I wanted to sketch, and I was not concentrating. Then finally, I looked at her, and she showed me a lighter, and I gave her cigarettes. I used to smoke that time, and she said no, her lighter's not working. So she just wanted uh, the lighter. So I gave her my lighter, and she just gave me her old lighter. And she left. But I felt very bad that I could have spoken to her. I could have bought her a meal. I was just, and she showed me some of her. She took out very small scraps of paper and she was drawing. But I was so engrossed in what I was doing that I completely ignore her. Now I just have this lighter. I keep it very safely, but I feel bad about it as well. So this was one residency I had in Finland, which was on a raft. So this is like what I really think was a high point in my sketching career, because I got to live Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, the kind of things I had imagined in my. That's me on the raft in Finland. So the residency was on the raft, and there were two rafts. One raft was at the festival site where people could come to my raft. So I had this little boat which was tied to the raft, and I could push it and or pull the kids. They could come. So they came for workshops there, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. My passport to perspectives, yes, I think it's a very important thing because I studied history before I joined design, and I feel that it has a lot of influence in my work. And I also feel it's very important in today's world to realize the importance of studying uh, the arts like history, because you look at fake news today, it's nothing but it's just a perspective. So if you are trained to look at different perspectives, analyze and figure out your point of view, that's what history does to you, or that's what historians do. They look at evidences, they look at various perspectives, and then they draw their own conclusion based on that. So they don't look at one thing and say, oh, that is what history is. So when I went to college, it was very nice in Delhi, because for the first time in my life they said, okay, you're studying medieval Indian history, all these things happened. This guy has written this thing about this place, this lady has written this thing about this event. What is your opinion? For the first time in my life, somebody was asking me for an opinion, and I really liked that. And I think that's what it boils down to. So this was last to last year. I went to Hamburg during. This was my first trip during the pandemic, and I didn't want to move much. I just went to the harbor. I looked at this Philharmony, and this is a crazy, pretty building, and I just sketched that building from various perspectives. And I think it is just this is what it is, that you just are able to look at the same thing from so many different perspectives, and it's all in the space of 2 hours that you spend there. And then I go camping quite a lot, and again I look at tents as elephants. So now it's become almost like a thing to look for a elephant in the tent. So every camping holiday I have this elephant in the tent. And yeah, this was last summer. This was 2 years back. And Yeah, so what does all this do to me? I mean, I think sketching just helps me shape my future. Like, and I don't know where exactly to go, but I know the general direction I'm headed. And I look at St. Stephen's College. I had this thing that, okay, after 2 years I'm leaving college. Learned so much from here, and I'm quitting halfway through. I should do something. So 2 years back, I did the St. Stephen's College sketchbook, and it became a reality. Then I keep watching people. So I did this also on the trains. So I did this whole installation where I did around 300 illustrations of different people that I had met on the encountered on the train, and it was quite a successful exhibition in Berlin. Then I think it has to. This was the visitors book for my very first exhibition in Germany, solo. So I just think that everything you do should have some kind of synchronization, because even the visitors book has to be good. It has to be in sync with what you're doing. Then I love cycling, and I did this trip in 2012. Incidentally, yesterday only was the you can call it anniversary of some sorts. 12/12. I did this Delhi to Udaipur, and then some publisher came to me and said that there was a man in '82 who cycled from Bangalore to Delhi to watch the Asian Games, and I got to illustrate the book, which was his. And the journey was pretty much very close to what I had experienced. So all what you experience comes into play. I used to always complain that nobody asked me to do book jackets, covers, like, so many people are doing. I'm an illustrator. So one day I got a mail saying HarperCollins finished 25 years and we would like you to do all 25 bestsellers rejacketing. So I cannot complain. So these were the 25 books at one go. Before this, I had never designed a jacket of a book. Then I started publishing some of my sketchbooks. So Ahmedabad sketchbook was one of the first ones. Then I did Rajkot. I've done a couple of cities, Morbi. Then right now I'm working with Gulzar Saab, which is like we talked about some teachers like Errol and Ranjan. Gulzar Saab has been a teacher without even him. He doesn't know that he's been a teacher, but through his poetry, I really thought that he gave us new perspectives towards things and how to look at one thing from different view points. And yeah, so here I am doing 14 books for children with him, and I feel blessed because I feel that I get to work with somebody whom I've really looked up to, and it's amazing to talk at a level where he gets angry, he scolds you, I get angry sometimes, and upset, and all of that. But it is just nice. It is just nice. So I feel that all these years you keep working every day, and something comes out of it. And yeah, so the last slide I would just put this, which is what is your concept of home? I don't know where home is. I actually think I carry it along, and it's something that I build, and I build it wherever I go, and yeah, that's how it is. And I am a very lonely person, to tell you frankly. Yeah, that's how it is. But I like being lonely. I like being in this space and frame. Yeah. So thank you, and thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts. I always like sharing whatever I do, because a part of the purpose is that. Thank you.
Hi, Alan. As always, fantastic journey that you took us through from your life through the prism of your sketchbook. And what plans for your own book, the 25 years of sketchbook of Alan? Is there going to be a book that you're going to publish? And who's going to design the cover of that book?
Me, I've already designed it. Yeah, it's just my journey, and I wanted to talk about like, what goes behind the scenes. So it starts with very boring text. Is like I wake up at 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning, and I do the dishes, and I place the plates where they have to be placed, the spoons where they have to be, and I don't want to get out of bed, but I still do. So I really want people to understand that it sounds all quite lovely. It is very lovely, but it takes a lot of effort to do it on a consistent basis, and keep a balance, because from this you cannot earn and live the way you would like to live. So you have to do this balancing act. So I think the book talks about this journey, but more, it also takes people to that part of uninteresting part of things. Yeah.
After so many years in the world of art and drawing and sketching, do you think art is a inborn skill, or is it something like language that can be taught to any child or any person?
It can be taught to anybody, because we have our own aesthetics. It's just that I would put it in one line that we all are poets inside, and we don't need good handwriting for writing poetry. So basically, if we go in that direction, we will find our way. And and I teach art also. So I would be the last person to say that it cannot be taught.
Books like Betty Edwards, I don't know if you've read Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain and Drawing on
Yeah.
the Art. Is that a good way to actually learn how to draw for somebody who wants to draw but wants to express themselves? Me particularly, I struggled to learn drawing through all 5 years of NID. Um, and I tried the Betty Edwards book, and it worked quite well. So, do you think methods
Okay.
like that are actually useful?
I feel that like everybody who gives some kind of insight into this, like my way of telling people is that if you look at some of the slides, it's not the drawing which is important. If it's not the way it is being drawn, it is what is being drawn is important. So to write good poetry, you don't need good handwriting. I mean, nobody looks and says Gulzarji writes in a very beautiful handwriting.
Hmm.
It is the content, and content I think everybody has. So I just feel that if people get over this anxiety of drawing well,
Hmm.
then it's there, because then you just draw and you don't fear being judged. And I sometimes also feel that I'm overskilled. I want to draw a little easy. Like I look at my daughter, and I'm doing a book with her where she actually, you look at it and say, I cannot paint like that. I want to paint like that, but I cannot, because we are marred by all these structures that we've been taught all these years. Yeah. So I think just letting go of this performance anxiety, that
That's
that
well put. Performance anxiety. Then my follow-up question to Alan is: if what you are drawing is important, how do you train your eye to see that which is important?
Yeah. So you can look at whole city as a very large piece of fabric, and you are this tailor who takes that little sample out of that and says that, yeah. So that's how, and somehow that little sample have the essence of the larger thing. And so you have to, it's like when a lot of people look at something and they click a picture, and then they look at a picture and say it doesn't look like the way I saw it. So we need to understand how to edit. And if I think we can edit, but in our culture we are not taught how to edit. It's I really feel culturally we try to write hathi under hathi. And it is very, so it takes a lot to break away from that, but once you do, it is easy then.
Last question: when you look back upon your life as an artist or as a designer, has it been a good life, a good way to live one's life through sketchbooks and through drawing and painting?
Yeah, I really like my life. Yeah,
Did you
and
have?
as I said, that sometimes it gets very lonely, sometimes it gets very sad. I'm actually a very sad person, like and I like being in that zone. Somehow, not for sympathy or anything, but I just like that. Yeah, I like. Uh,
Melancholy.
yeah, it's a melancholy. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have any regrets. I like that it went this way. Like I didn't plan it.
And
It
the Karl
just
Marx beard goes well with that melancholic approach to life. Okay, Alan, that brings us to the end of the session.
yeah,
But we hope to see you in India soon, man. It's been too long that we haven't met in real life, COVID or no
yeah,
COVID. We should see you in
yeah.
India soon, and we should open your
Yeah,
store.
I just want to thank you for one thing. There are people like you who make a difference. So I want everybody who's there in this session to know that when I put up my first exhibition, Suresh was never a good friend. We were acquaintances. He picked up the first
There,
two pieces. Yeah,
there on the wall. Those two works that you can't see are
yeah,
the. I bought it from Alan's exhibition many years ago.
yeah.
And just to be clear, I bought one piece, and Alan gave me the second piece free.
Okay, no, but it is just this. These are the small things, which when you're so scared when you're putting up an exhibition, and because this is the first time you're having a dialogue with the public, with the audience, and you need that one person to give that little confidence in you, and you did that. So thank you. Yeah.
Happy to looking forward to buying more of your work, but I need to see more of your work in real life, not on Zoom or not on
Okay.
live conferencing.
All right. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Thank you,
Thank you,
Paresh,
Alan.
and thank you,
Regards to your
Design
wife and
Council.
daughter. I hope all three of you stay safe.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
Bye. Bye.
ladies and gentlemen in the audience, that brings us to the end of day 3 of the Odisha Design Week. I hope you enjoyed all the sessions today. Tomorrow's sessions will be hosted by Rashmi Rajan. Rashmi has over 2 decades of experience in the field of information technology, and she is the co founder of an interior design business. She's also a professional anchor for design centered events. She'll be your host for tomorrow, and I will be in the audience along with you. Good night and stay safe.